Laura Bennett stepped out of her car and looked at the grand house where her brother's wedding was taking place. The sun was setting, painting the sky in soft orange and pink. She adjusted the military uniform she was wearing. The gold stripes on her shoulders shone slightly under the fading light. Laura had recently been promoted, and her rank was something she was proud of. But she also knew some people would not understand. Some would judge, even mock. Guests were arriving one by one. Women in long dresses and men in neat suits walked up the steps, chatting and laughing. Laura noticed a few familiar faces from her family. Some smiled politely, others whispered among themselves. She felt eyes on her as she stepped forward. The uniform made her stand out. She could feel the subtle tension in the air. "Laura, you look different," said her cousin Emma, a little nervous as she tried to be polite. "I like to be ready," Laura said with a small smile. She adjusted her uniform jacket and moved inside. The house was buzzing with energy. Flowers lined the entrance, and the soft sound of music floated through the air. Guests gathered near the tables set outside, enjoying drinks and appetizers. Laura walked carefully, noticing that a few people were glancing at her, then exchanging smirks. They always do this, she thought. They don't really understand what it means to serve. Laura found her brother, Ethan, in the middle of the crowd. He was looking nervous, straightening his tie for what seemed like the 10th time. "Laura, hey," he said quickly, relief in his voice. "You're here early." "Thank you." "I wouldn't miss it," Laura said, giving him a quick hug. She could feel his tension. "You look great. Are you ready for this?" Ethan laughed softly, though it was strained. "As ready as anyone can be. I don't know. People are going to notice your uniform. You know how family is." Laura nodded. She had expected it. The whispers, the judgmental glances, the tiny smirks. She had grown used to it over the years. People liked to see a woman in uniform and think it was strange. But she also knew that one person's respect was worth more than 100 opinions. A few more relatives approached her, making small talk. Some asked politely about her military work, others made jokes she could hear clearly. "Do we salute you now?" one man said with a laugh. Laura forced herself not to react, keeping her smile calm. She knew the best way to respond was to stay composed. Lucas Hart, a friend from high school, came up and gave her a friendly smile. "Ignore them," he said quietly. "They don't know anything about what you do." Laura nodded, grateful for the support. Lucas had always been kind and understood her better than most people in this crowd. They exchanged a few words about old times, which helped her relax slightly. Inside, the room was beautifully decorated. Candles flickered on tables, and the aroma of fresh flowers filled the air. The walls were lined with photos of Ethan and Claire, her soon-to-be sister-in-law. Laura took a deep breath and walked through the room, greeting guests. Some looked at her uniform with curiosity, others with skepticism. She felt their eyes, but did not let it shake her. Her uniform was a part of her identity, and she was not going to hide it to make people comfortable. At the far end of the room, she noticed someone who made her heart lift instantly. General Marcus Hale, a respected officer from her unit, had quietly arrived. He nodded at her with respect, and for a moment, Laura felt a sense of pride. She knew that no matter what others thought, there was one person who truly understood her dedication. The wedding party was moving into position for photos, and the music signaled that the ceremony would start soon. Laura felt a mixture of excitement and tension. She knew people were judging her, but she also knew that today might be the day when respect replaced ridicule. Her brother Ethan came up to her again. "Thanks for being here," he said softly. "I know some of them, they don't understand, but I do." Laura smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "I know," she replied. "I just want everyone to enjoy the day. That's all that matters." As the guests continued to arrive and the ceremony time approached, Laura adjusted her jacket one last time. She stood tall, her uniform crisp, her pride intact. The whispers continued around her, but she ignored them. Today was about her family, her brother, and the respect she had earned. And she knew that by the end of the day, those whispers might turn into something entirely different. The reception hall was buzzing with laughter and chatter. Guests mingled, holding glasses of champagne and talking in small groups. Laura moved carefully through the crowd, smiling politely at people she knew and nodding to those she did not. She noticed that some guests were whispering as she passed. Their glances lingered on her uniform, some curious, some amused. One of Ethan's distant cousins, a young man named Jared, leaned close to a friend and smirked. "Do you think she thinks she's some kind of commander here?" he whispered. His friend laughed quietly, and Laura heard just enough to understand. She forced herself to maintain a calm expression. It was not the first time people had underestimated her because of her uniform. Emma, her cousin, came over again, looking a little awkward. "Laura, people are saying things," she said softly. "I mean, you know, about your rank." Laura nodded. "I know," she said calmly. "I expected it. Let them talk. It doesn't change who I am." Even as she said it, a small flicker of discomfort ran through her. The comments stung, but she would not let them show. She was here for her brother, and she had worked too hard to let some whispers ruin her day. A few guests approached, asking polite questions about her military work. "How long have you been in the army?" one woman asked, genuinely curious. Laura smiled and answered briefly, explaining her duties in simple terms. Most of them seemed impressed, and she felt a little relief. But not everyone was kind. A group of people near the dessert table laughed as they noticed her standing there. "Do we need to salute you before dessert?" one man joked, loud enough for a few people nearby to chuckle. Laura bit her lip and glanced away, reminding herself to stay calm. Lucas' heart came over again, sensing her frustration. "Ignore them," he said quietly. "They don't know what it means to serve. Just keep your head high." Laura smiled at him, grateful. Lucas had always been a steady presence in her life. They exchanged a few words about the wedding, and it helped Laura relax a little. She knew she had allies, and that made the whispers less heavy. The music changed, signaling the start of the ceremony. Guests began moving toward the seating area, and Laura followed, standing with her family as they waited for Ethan and Claire to arrive. The murmurs continued, but she focused on the moment. This was her brother's special day, and nothing would distract her from being present. Then she noticed General Marcus Hale walking in quietly. He did not make a scene, but his presence was commanding. He wore his uniform as well, decorated with medals and ribbons. When he saw Laura, he gave a slight nod, a sign of recognition and respect. Laura returned the nod, feeling a surge of pride. For the first time that evening, she felt truly seen. As the couple entered, the room fell silent. Laura watched Ethan's face as he held Claire's hand, smiling nervously. She could see how happy he was, and it reminded her why she was here. The small acts of ridicule meant nothing compared to the love and joy surrounding them. The ceremony began, and Laura focused on the vows. Her uniform made her stand out among the family members, but she did not care. She stood tall, her posture perfect, and her expression calm. People might whisper, but they could not diminish her achievements. During the speeches, one of Ethan's friends made a joke about her uniform again. "Careful, everyone, or she'll start giving orders in the middle of the ceremony," he said, laughing. A few guests chuckled politely. Laura felt the heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her smile steady. She had learned long ago that patience was more powerful than anger. Lucas leaned toward her again and whispered, "Don't worry. Wait for it. Things are about to change." Laura raised an eyebrow, unsure what he meant, but she trusted him. She focused on Ethan and Claire as they exchanged rings, feeling proud of her brother. She reminded herself that this day was about family, not strangers' opinions. As the ceremony ended and guests clapped, Laura caught sight of General Hale again. He was standing tall, looking around the room, clearly observing her. Laura straightened further, feeling the quiet strength of his approval. It was subtle, but it meant everything. By the time the reception officially began, Laura had regained her calm. The whispers and laughter had not disappeared, but they no longer had the power to shake her. She knew that soon, everyone would see her not as someone to mock, but as someone worthy of respect. And deep down, she had a feeling that Lucas was right. The day had only just begun, and the real moments of recognition were yet to come. The reception hall was alive with music and chatter. Laura stood near the edge, watching guests mingle and laughing at small jokes. Despite the smiles on her face, she could still feel the weight of people's eyes. Some whispered behind their hands, glancing at her uniform. A few raised eyebrows caught her attention, and she realized that even in a room full of family and friends, she was being judged. She took a slow breath and reminded herself why she was here. It was her brother Ethan's wedding. Claire, his bride, looked radiant as she moved gracefully through the room, smiling at everyone. Laura felt a wave of happiness for them. The day belonged to her brother and his new wife, not to anyone's opinions about her. Some guests tried to make light conversation about her military career. "So, are you going to give us orders tonight?" one woman asked with a teasing smile. Laura laughed softly, keeping her tone calm. "I promise to stay out of it," she said. Her smile was polite, but her eyes showed quiet confidence. Jared, the cousin who had joked earlier, noticed her and muttered to his friend, "She's still standing there, proud as ever." His friend shrugged, clearly unsure how to respond. Laura heard the comment but did not react. She had learned long ago that letting small-minded people affect her mood was a waste of energy. Lucas appeared again, placing a hand on her shoulder gently. "See? You're stronger than they think," he said with a small grin. Laura gave him a grateful nod. His quiet support meant more than the clumsy jokes of distant relatives. The music shifted, signaling the start of the couple's formal introduction to the guests. Everyone turned to watch Ethan and Claire walk in. Laura's heart swelled with pride as she saw her brother's nervous smile. He looked happy, truly happy, and that was enough to make her forget the whispers around her. As Ethan and Claire moved through the room, shaking hands and exchanging greetings, Laura noticed a few guests leaning in closer, curious about her uniform. She felt their stares but kept her expression calm. Each glance was a silent reminder that she had earned her place in life, and she would not shrink for anyone. Then Laura saw him. General Marcus Hale stood near the back of the hall, quietly observing. His presence was commanding without being loud. The general's eyes met Laura's, and he nodded slightly. It was a simple gesture, but for Laura, it felt like a lifeline. She had served under him, and his recognition meant more than any approval from strangers. Laura felt a small surge of pride as she returned his nod. A few guests noticed the exchange and whispered among themselves. Curiosity replaced ridicule, and for a moment, the room's atmosphere shifted. She realized that respect was catching attention faster than gossip. The speeches began, and Laura listened closely. Some of Ethan's friends spoke fondly of him, sharing memories of their childhood. Then one of them made a teasing remark about her rank again. "Careful, everyone, or we might have to salute her before dessert," he said, laughing. Some guests chuckled, but the laughter sounded less confident this time. Laura smiled politely and waited. She knew that real recognition did not come from jokes. Claire noticed Laura standing quietly, her posture perfect and her uniform sharp. She gave Laura a warm smile and whispered, "I'm glad you're here." Laura returned the smile. It was comforting to know that the bride valued her presence, despite any awkward whispers around the room. As the ceremony progressed, Laura felt a sense of calm settle over her. She had faced judgment before and knew how to stand tall. The room was full of people, some skeptical, some curious, but she did not let it bother her. Every small act of patience and composure added to her quiet strength. When the music shifted again for the formal family photos, Laura moved to the designated spot, standing next to her brother. She caught sight of General Hale again. This time, he took a small step forward and watched her closely. Laura felt a mix of nerves and pride. She knew something important was about to happen. The couple posed for pictures, and Laura stood tall, her uniform crisp and her expression steady. The whispers had not disappeared entirely, but they seemed less confident now. People were noticing that she was not just someone to joke about. She was someone to respect. As the photographers clicked away, Laura realized that this day might be the turning point. She had been mocked and underestimated, but she had stayed strong. And she could feel that soon, the room would see her not as a subject of jokes, but as someone worthy of admiration. The reception continued, and Laura held her ground, quietly confident that the moment of real recognition was approaching. General Hale's presence was a reminder that true respect did not come from whispers or small-minded jokes. It came from honor, service, and courage. And Laura knew she had all three. The reception hall was now filled with music, laughter, and the smell of fresh flowers and food. Laura moved among the guests politely, exchanging small smiles and greetings. But she could feel the tension around her. Some guests whispered and laughed softly, casting glances at her uniform. It was as if her presence alone challenged their expectations. Jared, the cousin who had joked earlier, made another comment under his breath. "Do you think she actually orders people around when she's not at work?" His friend laughed, and a few nearby guests giggled quietly. Laura heard the remark, and a small frown crossed her face. She reminded herself to stay calm. The moment she reacted with anger, they would feel victorious. Emma, her cousin, came up again, looking concerned. "Laura, they're still saying things," she whispered. "I don't know why they can't just be polite." Laura nodded. "It's fine," she replied quietly. "I expected it. Let them talk. Their words don't define me." She straightened her posture, feeling the weight of her pride and confidence. Every whisper was a reminder that she had worked hard for her achievements, and no one could take that away. As she moved closer to the center of the hall, she noticed Ethan standing awkwardly near the buffet table. His smile was tight, and he seemed uncomfortable with the jokes floating around. Laura approached him, offering a reassuring look. "Don't worry," she said softly. "It's not your day to worry about their opinions. Focus on Claire." Ethan gave a small nod, clearly grateful. He straightened his tie and moved toward the guests, trying to keep the mood light. Laura followed, determined not to let the whispers ruin the celebration. A few guests tried to approach her with polite curiosity about her military career. "It must be challenging, being in the army," one woman said with genuine interest. Laura smiled and explained her role simply, describing her duties without exaggeration. Some of the guests nodded in respect, and she felt a small sense of relief. Not everyone was critical. But the ridicule did not end. A man named Philip, a friend of Ethan's from college, made a loud joke as he passed by. "Hey, do we salute before or after the cake?" he said, laughing. A few guests chuckled along with him. Laura felt her cheeks flush slightly, but she kept her calm, reminding herself that patience was more powerful than anger. Lucas Hart came to her side again, sensing her frustration. "Ignore them," he said quietly. "They don't understand. Keep standing tall. It will all make sense soon." Laura gave him a grateful smile. His quiet support made her feel stronger, like an anchor in the storm of whispers and laughter. As the evening progressed, Laura noticed General Marcus Hale again. He stood near the back of the room, observing quietly. His presence was calm but commanding. When their eyes met, he nodded slightly. The gesture was small, but for Laura, it was a powerful reminder that real respect mattered more than the whispers of strangers. During the speeches, a few people made comments again about her uniform. "Careful, or she might make us all march in formation," someone joked. Laughter rippled through the room, but it sounded uncertain, less confident than before. Laura smiled politely, her expression steady. She knew that true recognition did not come from jokes, and the whispers were losing their power. Claire noticed Laura standing with calm confidence. She leaned slightly toward Ethan and whispered, "I'm glad she's here. She's strong." Ethan nodded, his eyes following Laura. He could see that despite the whispers and jokes, his sister carried herself with dignity. As the night continued, Laura realized that the moment of real recognition was approaching. General Hale's presence was a subtle reminder that respect came from those who understood her life and sacrifices, not from shallow remarks or temporary laughter. The room was shifting slowly. The whispers were still there, but now some guests began exchanging curious glances. They were noticing something in Laura they hadn't before, a quiet strength, a confidence that could not be mocked. She stood tall, her uniform neat and her expression calm. Each small interaction was a reminder that patience and dignity always commanded respect in the end. Laura caught sight of Ethan again. His nervous smile had softened into pride. He knew that today, in front of all these people, his sister would not only be seen as part of the family but as someone worthy of admiration and respect. Laura felt a spark of hope. The night was far from over, and soon, the room would see her in a way that no joke or whisper could ever undo. And deep down, Laura knew that the real turning point, the moment when the whispers would stop and respect would begin, was coming very soon. The room fell into a soft hush as the music slowed. Guests were laughing and talking, but something about the atmosphere had shifted. Laura could feel it. The whispers and jokes that had floated around her since the evening began seemed to lose their weight. She stood tall, her uniform sharp and her expression calm, but even she could sense that a significant moment was approaching. From across the hall, General Marcus Hale stepped forward. His presence was quiet, yet it commanded attention. The chatter around him began to fade as people noticed his deliberate movements. He walked slowly toward the center of the room, eyes scanning the guests, finally settling on Laura. His nod was subtle but full of meaning. Laura straightened further, feeling her heartbeat quicken. The general raised his hand slightly, signaling for attention. Immediately, the room grew silent. All eyes turned toward him. Guests paused mid-conversation, curious about what was about to happen. Even Jared, who had joked about her rank earlier, stopped laughing, unsure what to expect. General Hale spoke clearly, his voice calm but strong. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention for a moment?" The room quieted completely. Laura could hear the soft rustle of fabric and the faint clinking of glasses as people waited. "I want to acknowledge someone who has shown courage, dedication, and true service," he continued, glancing at Laura. "This young woman has achieved what many only dream of. She has served her country with honor and commitment, and she deserves respect for her accomplishments." A murmur ran through the crowd. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, realizing that the jokes and whispers of ridicule had been misplaced. Laura felt a wave of relief and pride wash over her. She had expected recognition someday, but not in front of all these people, at her brother's wedding. General Hale stepped closer, stopping just a few feet from her. "Lieutenant Laura Bennett," he said, his voice steady, "your service and dedication are an example to us all. It is my honor to salute you in recognition of your achievements." With that, he raised his hand in a formal military salute. The gesture was precise, respectful, and public. A collective gasp ran through the room. Laura's eyes widened slightly, and a small, genuine smile broke across her face. She returned the salute, her own hand steady, feeling the weight of every eye in the room now filled with admiration. The murmurs turned to whispers of awe. Guests who had been laughing at her earlier now looked at her differently. Some nodded subtly, impressed by the recognition she had just received. Ethan's mouth hung slightly open as he watched his sister stand tall, receiving the honor she had earned. He felt pride mixed with a touch of guilt for not stepping in sooner. Claire, standing beside Ethan, placed a hand on his arm and whispered, "See? She's incredible." Ethan nodded without words, unable to take his eyes off Laura. Lucas stepped forward as well, smiling warmly. "I told you," he whispered. "They're seeing the real you now." Laura laughed softly, the tension from the evening melting away. It was a laugh of relief, of pride, and of validation. Jared and a few other guests who had been joking earlier looked embarrassed. Their eyes met Laura's, and she gave a small, polite nod, her smile calm and steady. No words were needed. The message was clear, respect had replaced ridicule. The general lowered his hand from the salute and gave her a final nod of approval. Laura felt a deep sense of accomplishment and recognition. This moment, in front of 300 people, was more than just acknowledgement of her rank. It was a statement. Her dedication, courage, and character were undeniable. As the room began to applaud, the atmosphere shifted completely. The whispers and small jokes disappeared, replaced by genuine admiration. Guests approached Laura, offering congratulations and kind words. Some asked questions about her service, now eager to hear more about her experiences. Ethan finally stepped forward, wrapping his arms around his sister. "I'm so proud of you," he said softly. "I should have said something earlier. You deserve all of this, and more." Laura smiled and hugged him back, feeling a mix of pride and love for her brother. The music started again, but this time the energy in the room had changed. Laughter and conversation flowed, but it was lighter, more respectful. Laura moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations with grace. She noticed that the eyes that had once mocked her now looked at her with curiosity and respect. General Hale stayed nearby, observing quietly but with a small, approving smile. Laura knew that his recognition had made all the difference. It had not just changed the way the guests saw her, it had changed how she felt about the evening. She stood taller, prouder, and ready to enjoy the rest of the celebration. For the first time that night, Laura felt completely at ease. The ridicule was gone, replaced with admiration and respect. The evening, which had started with whispers and judgment, had transformed into a celebration of not just her brother's wedding, but of her accomplishments, strength, and dignity. The applause slowly faded, leaving the room buzzing with a new energy. Guests who had whispered and laughed at Laura's uniform earlier now looked at her with curiosity and admiration. The air felt lighter, warmer, and more respectful. Laura walked through the crowd, accepting congratulations with a calm smile. Each word of acknowledgement felt like a reward for years of hard work and dedication. Ethan stayed close, clearly proud and a little embarrassed for not defending her sooner. "I should have said something earlier," he whispered as they stood together. "But I'm so proud of you. You handled it perfectly." Laura gave him a soft smile. "It's okay. They'll remember this night differently now. And that's what matters." Claire came over and hugged Laura warmly. "You've always been amazing," she said. "I'm glad everyone got to see it tonight." Laura felt a rush of happiness. The bride's words were sincere, and they reminded her that the people who mattered most already respected her. Guests began approaching her more confidently. Some asked about her military work, eager to hear stories of her experiences. "What was the toughest mission you had?" one woman asked. Laura shared a simple story about a training exercise, careful to make it relatable without boasting. The guests listened, rapt and genuinely impressed. Even Jared, the cousin who had mocked her before, looked sheepish as he came up. I didn't realize," he said quietly. Laura smiled politely. No need to say more. The respect she earned in that moment was enough to change his attitude permanently. Lucas Hart stayed by her side, a small, proud smile on his face. "Told you," he said quietly. "They see the real you now." Laura laughed softly. "Yeah, I guess they do," she replied. The general remained nearby, observing without interrupting, but his presence was a constant reminder of the recognition Laura had received. Every time she caught his eye, he gave a subtle nod, confirming that she had done nothing but command respect. Ethan stood at the head table, ready to give a toast. He raised his glass, and the room quieted once more. "I want to say something about my sister," he began. "Laura has always been brave, strong, and dedicated. Tonight, some of us learned exactly what I've known all my life. She deserves respect, not just for her rank, but for the person she is." The guests clapped, many smiling warmly at Laura. Some nodded in agreement, and others whispered words of admiration. Laura felt a flush of pride. It was one thing to be recognized by the general, but it was another to hear her own brother acknowledge her in front of everyone. The rest of the evening became a celebration not just of Ethan and Claire, but of Laura's accomplishments. People approached her for photos, and she laughed and posed with them, her pride shining through. Even strangers in the crowd now treated her with the respect she had earned. Lucas leaned closer and whispered, "You turned this night around." They'll never forget it. Laura smiled, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The ridicule and whispers that had followed her since she arrived were gone. In their place was admiration, curiosity, and respect. As the night went on, Laura danced with her family, laughed with friends, and enjoyed the celebration fully. Every interaction reinforced the truth she already knew: her achievements and character mattered more than anyone's opinion. She moved with confidence, her uniform still sharp, her posture proud. She felt free, finally able to enjoy the wedding without carrying the tension of judgment. Even as the reception began to wind down, Laura noticed that the guests who had doubted her now shared quiet smiles and nods of respect. She realized that this evening had become more than just her brother's wedding. It had become a moment where she was seen, acknowledged, and appreciated for who she truly was. By the end of the night, Laura stood near the balcony, looking out over the soft glow of the garden lights. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The whispers and ridicule had no power over her anymore. The respect and admiration she received tonight were lasting, and that knowledge filled her with pride and joy. She caught sight of General Marcus Hale once more. He nodded at her with quiet approval. Laura returned the nod, a small smile playing on her lips. She knew that tonight had changed how people saw her, and how she saw herself. The evening would be remembered not just for her brother's wedding, but for the moment when ridicule gave way to respect, when whispers turned into admiration, and when Laura Bennett stood tall and proud in front of everyone. The music played softly, and the room was alive with laughter and conversation. Laura moved among the guests, her uniform still crisp and her posture proud. She felt a calm confidence she had not felt earlier in the evening. The whispers and jokes that had followed her from the start were gone, replaced with genuine admiration. People approached her now with smiles, curious about her experiences and achievements. Ethan stood near the head table, occasionally glancing at his sister with pride. "I still can't believe how graceful you handled all of this," he said quietly when she came over. Laura smiled warmly. "It wasn't about me. It was about showing everyone that respect matters more than gossip." Claire joined them, linking her arm with Laura's. "You've earned their respect," she said softly. "And it's well-deserved." Laura felt a small surge of happiness. The bride's words reminded her that the people who truly mattered already understood her worth. Guests now approached with curiosity rather than judgment. One man asked about her training, and another asked about her travels with the army. Laura answered each question patiently, sharing her experiences in simple terms. She noticed that even those who had mocked her before now listened intently, asking follow-up questions and showing genuine interest. Lucas' heart stayed close, his quiet smile showing his pride. "They're seeing who you really are," he said. All it took was patience. Laura nodded, feeling grateful for his support throughout the evening. The room's atmosphere had completely changed. Laughter was lighter, conversations warmer, and there was a sense of genuine camaraderie. Laura realized that she had not only earned respect but also sparked curiosity and admiration. The ridicule that had once seemed unbearable had become irrelevant. Ethan raised his glass again for a toast. "To my sister," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "Laura Bennett is someone I have always admired. Tonight, all of you have seen what I see every day: her courage, her strength, and her dedication. Let's all raise our glasses in honor of someone who deserves our respect." The guests clapped enthusiastically. Some nodded, some smiled broadly, and a few even raised their glasses toward Laura. She felt a warm glow of pride. The public acknowledgement, combined with her brother's toast, confirmed what she already knew: her worth was not measured by gossip or judgment, but by her character and actions. Later, the dancing began. Laura joined in, moving gracefully with her family and friends. Every step felt lighter, freer, as though a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. People approached her on the dance floor, complimenting her and asking to dance. Even those who had been skeptical earlier now treated her with warmth and respect. Lucas laughed as he danced beside her. "See? You can finally enjoy the night," he said. Laura laughed softly. "I guess patience really does pay off," she replied. She realized that the evening had transformed into more than just a wedding. It had become a celebration of respect, character, and recognition. Ethan came over and joined them on the dance floor. "I'm glad you stayed strong," he said. "I know it couldn't have been easy with everyone whispering." Laura smiled at him. "It wasn't about them. It was about showing who I really am." The general remained at a distance, quietly observing the celebration. Every time Laura glanced at him, he offered a subtle nod or a faint smile, a reminder that her dedication and patience had been acknowledged by someone who truly understood it. That recognition meant more than any applause or conversation. As the evening drew closer to its end, Laura took a moment to step onto the balcony. The garden below was softly lit, the glow reflecting the warmth and joy of the night. She looked out and thought about the journey she had taken to get here, the years of training, the challenges, the moments of doubt, and the patience that had brought her respect. She realized that tonight had not only changed the way others saw her but also how she saw herself. The ridicule, the whispers, and the small jokes were now just memories. What remained was pride, confidence, and the knowledge that she had earned her place, not just at her brother's wedding, but in the eyes of everyone present. As Laura stepped back inside, she caught sight of Ethan and Claire, smiling at her. She joined them, feeling a sense of belonging and accomplishment. The celebration continued, full of laughter, music, and admiration. She knew that the evening would be remembered not just for the wedding, but for the moment when respect replaced ridicule, when whispers turned to admiration, and when she stood tall and proud in front of everyone. Laura's heart was full. The night had transformed from one of tension and judgment to one of recognition and joy. She had proven, in front of 300 people, that true respect comes from courage, character, and patience. And she had done it with grace. The night had grown quiet, and the reception hall was beginning to empty. Guests were saying their goodbyes, hugging the bride and groom, and offering parting words to Laura. She moved through the hall, accepting congratulations with a calm smile. The warmth in the room was different now, no whispers, no jokes, only admiration and respect. Ethan approached her, his expression full of pride. "I can't tell you how proud I am of you," he said softly. "Tonight, everyone saw what I've known all along. You're incredible." Laura smiled and hugged him. "Thank you," she replied. "I'm just glad people finally see the truth. It wasn't about proving them wrong, it was about showing who I really am." Claire joined them, linking her arm with Laura's. "I'm so happy you were here," she said. "You made this wedding even more special. Everyone respected you, and it was amazing to see." Laura felt a rush of happiness. The bride's words reminded her that respect and recognition were not just about rank, they were about character. Guests lingered nearby, approaching Laura with genuine curiosity. Some asked about her work, her training, and her experiences in the army. Laura answered each question patiently, sharing simple stories that highlighted her dedication without boasting. Every smile, every nod, and every word of admiration reinforced the sense of pride she felt. Even Jared, the cousin who had made jokes earlier, approached her cautiously. I'm sorry for what I said before," he murmured. Laura smiled politely. "It's okay," she said. "Tonight isn't about the past. It's about celebrating together." He nodded, clearly embarrassed but sincere, and walked away with a newfound respect for her. Lucas Hart stayed by her side, his quiet smile showing how proud he was. "You've turned the whole evening around," he whispered. Laura laughed softly. "I guess patience really does pay off," she replied. She realized that the night had become more than just her brother's wedding, it had become a celebration of respect, courage, and dignity. General Marcus Hale remained quietly near the back of the hall, observing with approval. Every time Laura caught his eye, he offered a small nod, a reminder of the recognition she had earned. It was subtle, yet it carried more weight than any applause or conversation. Laura felt a deep sense of satisfaction knowing that someone who truly understood her service respected her publicly. As the evening drew to a close, Laura stepped onto the balcony to breathe in the cool night air. The garden below was softly illuminated, the lights reflecting the warmth and joy that had filled the hall. She looked out, thinking about the journey she had taken to get here, the years of training, the challenges, the moments of doubt, and the strength it had taken to stay calm under judgment. She realized that tonight had changed more than just how others saw her. It had changed how she saw herself. The ridicule and whispers were now memories, powerless against the pride and confidence she had earned. Laura felt a quiet joy in knowing that she had shown the guests the person she truly was, brave, dedicated, and deserving of respect. Ethan came out onto the balcony to join her. "You did it," he said softly, looking at her with pride. "You didn't just survive the whispers, you turned them into admiration." Laura smiled. "It wasn't about them," she said. "It was about being true to myself and letting my actions speak." They stood there together for a moment, enjoying the calm after the night's excitement. The wedding had been a turning point, not only for the guests' perception of Laura, but for her own sense of self. She knew that the respect she had earned tonight would last far longer than any passing remark or joke. As the last guests left and the lights dimmed, Laura felt a sense of closure and pride. The evening had transformed from one of tension and judgment to one of recognition and joy. She had stood tall in her uniform, faced whispers and ridicule, and emerged with respect and admiration from everyone around her. The night ended with Laura walking out of the reception hall, her uniform still crisp, her head held high, and her heart full of pride. She knew that this night would be remembered, not just as her brother's wedding, but as the night when respect replaced ridicule, when whispers turned to admiration, and when Laura Bennett proved, in front of 300 people, the strength of her character and the honor she had earned. She smiled one last time, stepping into the cool night air, ready to carry the pride, respect, and dignity she had earned into every challenge that lay ahead.